So we're going from recording on Saturday 2 weeks in a row, I believe, to now recording on a Thursday. We are just all
We
over
are
the place, aren't
really
we?
punctual this time.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we had reasons for being late those 2 times, or at least, like, you were busy
I
with
did.
stuff, and now this week we need to record. The reason we're recording on Thursday instead of on Friday, and why we won't be able to cover Kabaneri since it doesn't release in time for us to cover it, is because I will be at FanimeCon this weekend, and I won't have time to do all the shit I need to do to get this video ready to go up if we record on Friday like usual. So we are recording a day early.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Not
Yeah.
much else to add.
Covered all the key points there, yeah.
Honestly, the loss of not being able to cover Kabaneri is not the biggest upset in the world anyways.
Yeah. We
A tear
go
will be
without
shed
that.
and then immediately forgotten about.
Yeah. We're gonna go through a lot more pain watching it anyways and not talking about it, so it's probably for the better.
It's fine. We'll just do a double for Kabaneri next week anyways, which honestly the show may need
joy.
anyways, because it's hard to really talk about it lately unless something crazy happens this next episode, but
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. We're just taking a big old shit on it nowadays, really, rather than talking about it.
It's almost like on its own Kabaneri is fine. It's just like compared to other shows, it's just like there's so many other like shows that I prefer more, and so it just makes Kabaneri look worse. But then also I'm watching shit
Yeah.
like Big Order, which makes everything else look like a fucking masterpiece. So it's like this weird balancing act of opinions.
Yeah, no. Read the Big Order manga. I got to like chapter 13, and that was enough for me. That was really enough for me. It was a mess.
Would you believe me if I told you the anime made it even worse?
See, like, I don't have I could, but like mine was pretty shit. So like they would have to go like on some really diverse paths to really like they'd have to try to make it bad, really.
The anime is almost like a fucking masterpiece in the sense of like the perfect example of all the ways shows can go wrong. If you want to like anime more than you already do, you should watch Big Order because it'll show you all the shit that other shows don't do and are fucking great for not doing those things.
Nice. It's
Well,
a compliment in its own right, really.
It really is like it's almost so bad you need to watch it just so you can see like all the things that you should not do on like an executive like making anime level. Like the pacing is so fucking all over the place and the scene swap happens so quickly. Like there's no sense of pacing at all. Like it'll literally like start a fight with like a fucking 2-frame shot of like shit coming in from out of nowhere, and then like the next frame they're like 10 feet in some other position. Like I can't even describe it. Like Big Order just describes itself. Like you just watch it and you're like, just how the fuck did this even happen? Like these people made this show on like a fucking shoelace budget. Like they have to have, and they made it in like an hour before it aired. It's the only explanation I can think of.
Well, I guess you could kind of say that it's a pretty tall Big Order to watch it.
God damn it.
To watch the show.
I should have seen that coming.
See, I had to like kind of work in a way that it's like I had to integrate Tall Order into it, but yeah, it didn't really work out in the end. It was pretty shit.
Anyways, we should cover
Hilarious.
shows that we're actually watching for this. So we're gonna skip Kabaneri since it didn't come out in time, and that means we'll jump right into Hero Academia. So what did you think of this week's episode of Hero Academia, Lewis?
I'm really enjoying what they're doing with Bakugo. Like, Deku. I wouldn't necessarily say he's taking a secondary role to the ongoing so far, but this is definitely what seems to be Bakugo's arc. Because he's having that internal dilemma with everyone. He's no longer that the big fish in a small pond. He's now like a big fish in a fucking ocean, really. So it's kind of nice to see how he develops through that. In regards to the other characters, I love Naval's Naval
Laser
Beam's
guy.
interactions this episode. They were spectacular. What else? Yeah, no, like I kind of feel like I'm just going to end up repeating what I said last week. Just Bakugo's superiority complex coming into play really made this episode. It was just kind of like a part 2 of last week. Whereas we saw like the closure to like the test, and we saw how well everyone else performed, and it was really Bakugo's episode, and it was a needed episode for him because, well, at the start, as my complaints evidently said, he was just a shell of what a rival character is supposed to be, really. Now he's really forming into a well-rounded character overall. Not just, you don't just see his like, oh, he's a dick. Everyone hates him, but everyone loves him because he's powerful, but we're supposed to hate him. You don't just see that anymore. I wouldn't. Well, I suppose he would be garnering some sympathy from the audience, but he is turning into more of a rounded character because of this episode, which I greatly appreciate. Other than that, Naval Beam's probably the best character in the show, without a doubt.
Yep, that's. Yeah. I'm not even gonna deny that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered it. Like, it's a pretty straightforward episode, part 2 of, covering Bakugo for the most part. We're getting a lot of all the other characters too, but it's primarily Bakugo, which is almost like, it's like Bakugo is kind of like the starting point, and it's covering all the others, like, as a result of the fact that it's covering Bakugo. But it was cool how they handled it. Like, after the, the big bombastic fight between Bakugo and Deku, it was nice that the next trial that happened, normally, like, people complain that it's not, like, other characters aren't as, don't have their big moments to shine and stuff like the main characters do, which makes them seem, like, less interesting. But they actually played to that in this, and the fact that the second trial went on, like, the ice guy just fucking, like, obliterated the trial. Like, it was a fucking cakewalk. And it was, like, the entire point, because Bakugo, like, struggled against Deku, and then this ice guy just fucking waltzes through this test like it's fucking nothing. And, like, that really helped as far as, like, shoving it in his face as far as, like, his superiority complex starting to get broken down, because he's gone through all his life up to this point being praised for his quirk and how, great he is and all this stuff, and now, like, the exact opposite is starting to happen. And so it's this clash that's really working well. I also like the really small character moments, stuff that, like, Kabaneri could really use to, like, just call it out for a bit there. I really like the bit at the end where a couple of the girls are watching Deku and Bakugo through the window. And, God, how many Razes are her name? Uraraka? Is it 2 or 3?
Uraraku, I think that's her name,
Uraraku? I don't know. It's crazy, but she's just watching this, and they're like, what the fuck was that? And she's like, it's the fated, battle between men. And then Frog Girl's just like, I don't think it's, I'm not sure. And then she just pushes her face further against the window and goes, and just repeats herself. It's a fated battle against men. Those nice little character moments, like, really endear people. And, like, with the Laser guy trying to, like, explain who he is, and then the fucking acid Frog Girl keeps interrupting him. Like, those little character moments like that really, like, help, give them quirks and, like, pun not intended, give them little, like, character traits, not even character traits, but just little aspects of their character that are nice to see and pull you in. But yeah, it was a pretty straightforward episode, really.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they accomplished what they needed to do. Another character which you did mention really shown this episode was probably Iida. His sense of. Yeah, his sense of, like, justice really showing out, and that he, like, I guess this is a little of a bad term to use, but he gets off on, like, being good. Like, he's so he's so, like, pure and clean that it's endearing, really, because, like, whenever you see, like, the kind of lawful good characters within anime, they kind of make you sick. Like, it's just kind of I must do good because doing good is good. Whereas with Iida, it's just endearing, really. He's almost a comedic relief in the sense, but we've seen in the trial that he is still a very strong character. So and they even like I like the way that they actually went about and highlighting it. And it was like, yeah, no, all the things that he did in the I guess it was like I guess it was an assessment. I guess I don't know. Everything he did in the assessment was really intelligent, even though he lost. There, sometimes you just ties go against you, and it really was nice to see that he got a lot of attention, and him just gleaming off the fact that everyone praised him on doing good despite being a villain at the time. So yeah, Ida has really turned out to be one of my favorite characters in the show.
Yeah, the scene of the girl going over like all the things that are that he did right while the others did wrong, and he's just like slowly like getting more and more joy out of it until like his smile is
Yeah.
like comical. Is that was a good scene.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I think the only other thing the episode covered is that they teased what the final bit of the show is probably going to be. They're introducing a couple of these villains in this. Apparently, the villains have a bar they hang out in with a fucking
Yeah.
evil as shit looking bartender as Black Flames. I'm gonna take a wild guess, and say that they, or at least that one dude, is gonna, cause some trouble by the end, and then all the students are gonna have to work together to do something about it. And I doubt he's gonna
Yeah,
actually
most
be able to
definitely.
kill All Might, but he'll somehow incapacitate him. So then it's gonna be up to the students to solve the issue.
Mm.
That's a wild guess how the show is gonna end, which is fine because they're setting up to it and it makes sense. But I guess we finally got that little bit of a tease there.
Yeah, like it's episode 8 at the moment, so maybe this is the Bones anime original ending that we're getting. I don't know if this is actually the thing that they did in the manga. Could have been. I haven't heard any news really about it ever since, because I haven't actually really looked at the reactions of the episode. But this could just be the original ending that they were probably well, the kind of staple Bones anime original ending that we're probably going to get. So it'll be interesting when they start bringing that into play and how it's going to affect the overall story, and if Academia actually gets to season 2, which I imagine it probably will, since it's pretty popular at the moment. It's just a matter of how it's going to end, really. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up being split core. But as far as I'm aware of, I'm pretty sure that the villain character who was talking is someone who's in the manga. At least I
Really?
think so, from what I've gathered through like osmosis of just the general community talk.
Yeah.
What I don't know is whether obviously it's going to be like an actual event that happened in the manga, or if they're just like making him do something, like you said, anime original, so that there's some kind of climactic fight for the end of this. But we'll just have to see what happens in that regard.
Yeah. It could be something like like they did with Noragami. Like they have like an established villain with Nora, and they're just kind of going to use her to kind of bring in a new villain. They could be doing something like that. That being said, Nora was kind of like not exactly the main evil guy at the end of it all, but kind of like a not necessarily catalyst for evil that happened, but just kind of a what's the word, advocate almost to evil, to an evil guy coming there. So it'll be interesting how they approach it, though.
Yeah. But I think that's about it for Hero Academia as far as like
Yeah.
stuff we could cover. Unless I missed anything. Do you have anything else to add, Lewis?
No, that's about it. Yeah.
All right, so then we could jump right into our next show, which is ReZero. So, what did you think of this week's episode of ReZero, Lewis?
Pretty goddamn spectacular. The one thing I really enjoy about ReZero is that it's so-called off episodes. When things kind of die down, and when a show like has a perpetual climax, like last episode's climax was him jumping off the big old cliff onto the big old rocks. Now it's kind of dying down, and we gotta eventually wait towards our new climax. Those kind of off episodes, it's still enticing, and it still has you on edge of your seat, wondering what's going to happen. All the interactions really in the is what keep you wanting for more. And I think the scene that is probably the most noteworthy thing is the head on knee lap. I forget the official name for it, between Subaru and Emilia, because I feel like it was a thing that we were going to get eventually, because dying over and over again probably is quite stressful. I don't know, but I can make a solid bet. So I would imagine that, well, I would have predicted back then that we would have had a breakdown within Subaru coming a while. I mean, a good while into the show. And this was probably the perfect time to have it, because, again, he's been in this loop for 5 times now, I think. So this is probably the perfect time where he actually cracks down and really breaks down. And the actual overall scene was perfect, really. There's no word to describe it. Like, it nails from the start of it, when Subaru was still like trying to keep up that facade of, oh yeah, everything's fine, and that kind of like almost sickening too good nature of his that he was just trying to keep up, to the eventual time when like he eventually just breaks down into tears. It was all really, really beautiful and well done. It had a very nice overall episode. Had a very nice like kind of structure to it as well, because we did actually learn about Subaru as well, and with his shadow mana, I guess, which kind of explains, which I don't know if this would be the official explanation, why he smells so much of the jealous witch. But it's nice that we actually got that kind of like knowledge about Subaru, because it's kind of helping as the viewer to kind of put all the puzzles in place to kind of like figure out what is actually going on with Subaru. And also we had that lovely scene with Emilia and Subaru. So on a drama side of things and on an exposition side of things, ReZero did a fucking fantastic job of everything, really, as it has been doing all season. But this episode was really just, it was beautiful, really. It's the only word for it.
Yeah, definitely agree there. I thought the Shadow Affinity thing was, I'd say my thoughts on it were like how do I word this? The inverse of yours. What I thought it was is that the Jealous Witch pulled him into the world and gave him that reset power, and that's why he had Shadow Affinity magic. Almost like because that was imbued into him, like that was his affinity, and that's where the and the smell is just because of, the curse or whatever's on him in the first place. But yeah, this was another great episode, and it's another example of, like, again, the directing continuing to do great without, like, there's 2 noticeable directors this season, obviously, to further bring in the Kabaneri comparisons to shows we're watching, is that you have, obviously, your Tetsuo Araki, the very bombastic director, keeping it 11, making sure he always has your attention kind of stuff, and then you have the ReZero director, who also has, like, the attention is almost in the opposite direction. It's more the attention to details and, like, making sure everything, like, fits tone-wise, as far as, like, building up, or whether it's like just a light tone or a heavy tone, just making sure you feel the right tone, whatever it is. And all the attention to smaller details too. Like, one of the things that was really good about this episode was when Subaru was overworking himself around the halfway point, to the point where it's like entering montage mode of him like just doing all the stuff around the house, interacting with people. And there's like that slow, like that rumble you hear in the background that just starts off like just a little bit there, and then like every interaction it gets a bit louder and a bit louder and a bit louder, until like it's at the point where, like, it's like almost drowning out the noise of him doing anything. Like, he has, I think one of the last interactions he has is with when he's sweeping or something and Emilia comes by and he goes a little bombastic with the broom and starts talking to her. Is like, at that point the rumble's like so loud, and like his like the words of people saying things, their dialogue is like muted to the point where like you almost like it's getting hard to hear them. And then after that is like the point where like he reaches his breaking point and he throws up. It's like that. that decision to have that noise there was like I don't want to say genius, but it just worked so perfectly.
It was clever, yeah.
Any other director would have just left it at all of the stuff except that noise. Like, they would have done the same thing where he goes, over bombastic, but they would have had, the backing thing probably with, the I feel sick, like that dialogue probably still would have been there with another director, probably. But that, the backing rumble noise added onto it just added even more. And it's more about keeping you drawn into it's not a matter of keeping things at 11 to keep your attention. It's a matter of like directing the tone to know what you should feel at any point and know what to expect from the show as like a result. Like, I don't want to, like, I say know what to expect as a result almost like a predictability thing. That's not quite what I mean. I mean, like, you shouldn't have one tone and then immediately do a comedic scene. Like, then it becomes tonally jarring and it's weird as fuck. Part of it is also just a grasp in general on like what to do to establish the tone, which is this is where it gets a bit subjective. Certain things will fit the tone that it's going for, others won't. I mean, we've already gone over the fucking smiling baby thing and how fucking hilarious that was. But ReZero has yet to do anything that didn't fit the tone it was going for, at least for me. Like, obviously, if for all I know, someone could watch ReZero and maybe it'll do a scene that was like the smiling baby for them. I don't think that's fucking possible because smiling baby, but it's hard to describe. Like, it's really hard to describe, especially off the top of your head, as far as like how the directing ties in so well to like keeping your attention. But another aspect of the episode that was nice, and I wanted to save it for after I covered all that because I'm not sure if I should necessarily credit the directing on it because it's so small, is again the little character details that keep you drawn in. This time rather than well, there are some with the other characters too. Like, obviously Blue's given Subaru some fucking looks the entire episode. Or like the reaction when he drops the vase and she like instantly turns to him like she's gonna like fucking kill him or something, like he's trying to do something. Like, obviously that's, a good one right there. But what I'm talking about with the small character moments is all the stuff with Subaru, because you mentioned, the obviously the lap pillow thing is the big scene of the episode, and it goes back to what we were saying the previous episode with all the yelling is a matter of earning those kinds of scenes. Like, you can't just a problem with a lot of shows is they do those kinds of scenes and expect you to care because of them without doing any establishment beforehand. Like, and it works for some people, but for other people you're just like, well, I don't care about this yet. Like, why should I give a shit about this? Like, it's nice, but you're not really invested. You have to be invested into it when they do those things to make it work. And I don't even remember how I got off on that tangent, but
let's remember.
Right, it was a matter of earning it. That's what I was saying. It's again a matter of earning it this episode with the lap pillow scene, because not only with all the episodes beforehand, like, we know all of this has been getting to Subaru, like, not just the looping itself, but obviously, like, every time he dies, like, it's not fun. Like, he has to go through all the pain of dying before it happens. Like, I was rewatching earlier episodes because, assuming I get it done on time, there should be a ReZero video going up the day before this weekly podcast thing.
Ooh.
So I was watching older episodes to like get a look at some of that stuff, and we can cover a little bit of something because you saw something too that we can mention a little bit in a while as far as like directing also. But I watched especially the double episode that aired at the beginning, and when Subaru's killed that first time, not the first time, it's the second time he's killed by crazy spider bitch. Like, he doesn't immediately die. Like, she cuts his belly open and there's this long dialogue where she's like narrating his loss of blood and like the feelings he's going through as he's like slowly losing consciousness and dying. And it's like going back to that scene after like the recent stuff especially made it hit even harder, like how fucking like shit Subaru has it as far as like, having to loop all these times. Like, there's no convenient loops. Like, even when he gets fucking stabbed in the alleyway by the thugs, like, he still gets stabbed in the side and has to bleed out and die still. Like, there's been no immediate deaths. And like, the only immediate death he's had is when he committed suicide, and even then he had to jump off a fucking cliff to do it. Like, Subaru's had no easy way out. No, okay, he did have one, which was the very first loop where he dies in his sleep because he was asleep. But that was less about, the pain and agony of it and more about like shocking the viewer with the fact that it reset, period. Um, I keep going off tangent, but
It's helpful.
it's. I mean, I'm just talking about all the stuff that makes ReZero so good. It's
It's a good show.
as far as what I was originally going to say, which is earning the scenes that you do. Not only was it the previous episodes that built up to the lap pillow scene where he expounds on, the pain he feels without being literal, because obviously otherwise the hand would have something to say about it. The episode itself had lots of scenes of Subaru, like, obviously, like, you would think he's largely, I mean, it still sucks, but for the most part, the previous episode was him, like, deciding he was going to do something about it. But just because he decided to do something about it doesn't make it any less, like, stressful and, like, full of horror for him. So this episode really, like, drove that home that that's still a thing for him. Like, when he gets, what did they call the magic ability? Shamlock or something? Like, when he gets...
Shmat? I don't know.
Shamak or something like that. When that happens to him, and it like, instantly is like when the hand grabbed him. Like, and he freaks the fuck out, obviously. But then he gets pulled out of it, and he's kind of looking away from them. And obviously, Mia's like, "Are you okay, Subaru? What are you all right? You look kind of weird there." And there's a shot where you can only see like a bit of his mouth where it's like kind of open and he's like panic a bit, and then you could see him kind of like close it and gulp a little before he turns around and resumes his usual act. And then there was also another little moment with Subaru, which was the lap pillow scene itself, where he's keeping up the facade the whole time, doing his little, silly comments, and Mealy even, like, she straight up says, like, you don't have to worry about the weird tough guy act right now, and his eye twitches, like, the fact that she caught onto him. It's all those little details that, like, keep you drawn in, and, like, because not only do the little details, like, it's little details like that won't make you want to pay attention because you want to catch those things, but then they also, like, inform you about the characters. Like, those little actions there, like, tell you a lot about Subaru. Like, the first one's before the big panic scene where, like, the building noise is happening, so, like, that initial, like, gulp after the shadow world shit he went through tells you, like, where the episode's gonna go because of that little thing right there. And then the scene on the lap pillow is, like, obviously, like, it tells you a lot about Amelia's insight, the fact that she's able to pick up on something like that, or the fact that Subaru can tell that she kind of sees it, and the fact that he continues to keep trying to play it off is, it just further informs the characters. And so it's, I guess something I don't cover enough, or maybe I do and I just feel like I don't, is the character interactions in this show are really, really great, and it's understated. They've been getting better, I will say. Like, I will admit, there are a lot of people who watched the first episode of ReZero and didn't like it that much for some of the character interactions, and I can kind of get that. I still liked them, but the character interactions to this point have been, like, the best they've ever been. Like, the decision, and again, it ties into the character interactions along with the directing for this one, was when Amelia's, telling him, it's all right, he doesn't have to keep the tough guy act, and when she tells him, it was tough, wasn't it? Like, she says, like, half the sentence, and then she leans over and, like, whispers it in his ear, but you hear it louder. Like, the volume of the episode itself is, like, louder, so it's almost like she's whispering in your ear. Like, so, like, you're almost, like, in Subaru's head right there for that moment when it happens, and then, like, that's when everything breaks. His little shell that he's in breaks, and he, like, lets loose. And it ties in really well to the arc itself that's been going on. It's that Subaru's trying so fucking hard in this episode to, like, get everyone on his side and not die and make everyone, happy at the end and not dead. And it's still not working. Like, Blue is still really suspicious of him. And Red even mentions to Roswald, or whatever the fuck dude's name is, I can never remember it exactly, that, he's a little suspicious. Like, it seems like she's slightly more suspicious of him than usual. It's like he tries harder, and it's like, it still wasn't gonna work. Like, they were still suspicious of him. But the fact that Amelia went in and, let him rest on her lap and, got him to expound on his pain was the thing that actually is ultimately going to save him. Because it's not, like, literally his actions in and of itself that did it. His actions caused Amelia to do what she did, but it's the characters all together that are making it happen. which with Subaru just being the catalyst. Like, the reason the maids are laying off on him now is because Amelia mentioned, she said, he's a nice guy, and they trust her. So, you know, they're like, it was like the ultimate kind of like judgment call. The fact that she was willing to, you know, vouch for him like that, obviously with his head in her lap, is like, you know, a big deal for them. So they're like, all right, maybe we can trust him. So really, like, after this point, it's really all that happens in the village with, like, the curse stuff, assuming Subaru's prediction is right. But there was one other character, I know I've been going on a long time, but there's one other character interaction that I like that I wanted to mention, because I always want to make sure I cover everything I like about ReZero, because it's great, and I want it to be the most talked about show this season, and I gotta make sure I get everything I liked about the episodes out. So, the one other interaction that I really liked was actually with Beatrice. Like, it's something small, and it doesn't tell you much about the show as a whole, but it was just a nice little, like, interaction between the two characters, which is when I'm pretty sure it's when he's asking about, like, where the curses could have come from, and he's just sort of pacing around her, like, just the characters themselves right there tells you, like, a lot about them. Like, Beatrice is just, like, glued to her book and not even really paying attention to what he's doing, and Subaru's just, like, walking in circles around her. And I don't remember what happened. Like, he wanted information, or he wanted something from her, and she said something to him that was, like, sarcastic, or she wouldn't tell him. And he says something like, oh, come on, Biyako, we're tight, aren't we? And she, like, is halfway through a sentence where she's just like, I don't know what kind of relationship you think we... And she stops and looks up from a book and then, like, watches him and is like, what the hell did you just call me? And it's like any other, like, it's not just what they're saying, it's the way that their motions work really well. Like, the whole time Subaru's, like, pacing in a circle, like, thinking nothing of this, and Beatrice isn't thinking any of it at first either, until she, like the fact that she takes a second to register what he said, as if she's, like, only partially paying attention to him, like, it tells you a lot about, like, how they interact with each other and their characters themselves. Like, those little, like, the way that they're visually portrayed during their conversations. It's similar in vein to what we've been saying about Bungo Stray Dogs, and how, like, the visual directing of the characters informs you about them. It's the same thing kind of here, with how, you know, Beatrice doesn't really care until he says something that she views as insulting, and it's just like, what the fuck did you just say to me, bitch? How dare you call me that? So, I'll shut up. It's a great episode. Do you have anything else to add, Lewis?
Like, you've really covered everything. Like, there really isn't anything else to add other than, I don't know. It's a good show.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good show.
Well, like I said, I want to scrub the episodes clean of all the things I like, you know? This show's great, and I want other people to like it too. So I just try and cover all the positives I can notice in an episode, really.
Yeah, I did a good job in it anyways, because really, I'm kind of coming up blank, really, because like there's a lot of good stuff within the episode when it comes to developing what you know as a viewer, because we essentially confirmed this episode pretty subtly. I admit that Blue is kind of not necessarily an outcast, but just not the. She's the less informed out of the maid sisters, because I think Red or whatever is the one that's kind of like well, there's something going on with Ronald or whatever.
Ronald McDonald.
Ronald McDonald, that's his name now. That because, you know, she was sitting on his lap, and in anime terms, that's pretty much confirming they're banging. So, like, we've kind of, like, you can kind of guess some things about, like, the maids in that sense. You know, Red is probably obviously the controlling one, because Blue calls her sister and Red calls Blue by her name, Rem, and Blue is always seems to be the one that's suspicious of Subaru the most, because Red is always kind of like, well, she still has an onlooking eye, but it's never as, like, filled with death as much as Blue is. So there are, like, a lot of pieces you can kind of put together in your head, and from, like, a lot of the developments and just the scenes we saw, and without outright telling you. So really, it's a good show when it comes to actually showing you its exposition. I mean, telling you its exposition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually thought of another thing that I mentioned before that we could cover. I think I just went on too long, so we forgot. Was that uh, another thing we could cover as far as like the directing being good is that you mentioned it. I saw you mention it in chat, but I didn't say anything about it. But I noticed it when I was rewatching the episodes. Was the stuff in the opening, because like I said last week, like I fully expected the opening to play this week after we learned what a little bit more about what the hand literally kind of is, which kind of the opening is largely means the same stuff scene wise. It's just that you have a bit
Yeah.
more context for the things that are happening in it, which lend a new like kind of perspective on the things that happen in the opening. But I'll let you explain it. But we both noticed something near the end of the episode that flashes by very quickly frame wise. You have to like pause the episode on like the right frames to notice them. But
Yeah.
you want to explain what it was, Lewis?
Well, basically, when Subaru's heart in the opening is getting squeezed by the witch's hand, we can only assume. There's a very, very brief scene where two chains are kind of forming an X across the screen. One of them being a reddish pink or some sort, and one of them a dark blue. I wonder what that represents. Then, as previously, I think it was actually just before that like little flash comes up. It's you really have to pause the actual opening to see it. It's the blade which the crazy spider chick used to dissect Subaru in the first episodes. So I guess it's just it's trying to represent, like, obviously, you know, the dangers that are the physical dangers within him that are a threat to Subaru, but it's still a nice thing that they're really foreshadowing that much that ahead, because to me it just says to me, other than like, you know, it's showing what it's got, and it's kind of like a little tidbit for you to go back to, but it's also showing to me that like they really care about the show, even though it's pretty obvious that they really do care about it, the way they're treating it. But it's just really nice to see that sort of thing. Anyways, it's just a little tidbit for me. I'm sure you probably wanted more from that, but yeah, it was just a nice little touch.
No, that's about it. It's not a huge thing. Like they're basically it shows the blade and it shows the chains, and then that right after that is the scene in the opening where Subaru dies in the proper time going forward thing, because at the beginning it's reversed and the end it goes forward. So it's kind of showing like that's what, you know, killed him. But it's a minor thing. Like it's not like amazing directing, but what it is it's a very good way to handle an opening for a show like this, which is similar to the hand itself that we were just mentioning earlier. It's putting all this stuff in the opening that you kind of don't really get when you first watch it. Like you can get a general idea of what all this stuff is, but after you watch, you know, the first half of the show and you watch the first opening again, you notice all this stuff and you're like, oh wow, all this shit was here the whole time. And it's also in a way a good indication that one of the hardest things when making something like, you know, entertainment wise, like media, especially like an anime, is being able to separate your perspective from someone who's working on the show from someone who is looking at the show as a viewer. Like, obviously, when you work on a show, you have a very different perspective of how information is being portrayed and shown than someone who's just watching it. And an opening like that shows me that the director really understands what a new viewer will see. Like, obviously, as someone who like knows the material and you know, helped direct the opening, they know what the chains mean, they know what the hand means. They probably know even more because they probably read more of the source material because they need to adapt this stuff. It shows that the fact they were still willing to put it and know that people wouldn't really get it until later is a sign of like a director who knows how to like portray information correctly. Like this guy, like this is the kind of director who, if like a legit straight up like Sherlock, a mystery kind of show was made, would be fucking perfect, because they know exactly how to portray information in a way that would be obvious on like rewatch, but not on like a first watch. Although I mean, there'll always be some people who pick up on this kind of stuff, but it's just sort of that thing. And there was also even outside of the opening itself, there was another scene when I was watching the first episode that did something similar. when Subaru first enters the world, there's that little scene where like the kid's gonna get run over by a carriage. I actually tweeted this on Twitter, but I wanted to mention it on the weekly thing because I liked it so much. Was Subaru did this thing where he's like, "Oh, I'm in fantasy world. I'll use my power to save the kid." And he looks like an idiot because nothing happens. But the knight saves the kid and rolls over. And when the camera switches back to Subaru, it shows like a shot of like down the roadway, especially like where the carriage has continued to keep going. And on the archway over where the carriage is going under is like a symbol. And if you notice, which you won't notice on the first watch because you haven't seen it yet, the symbol on the archway is the emblem that Amelia is trying to get back.
Yeah,
so
insignia.
Yeah, like that attention to, like, I didn't even notice it until I rewatched the episode for like the sake of the script I was working on. So it's again, it's one of those things where it's like showing you stuff that you're not even gonna pick up on until you rewatch it and you're like, how the fuck did I not notice this? You know, how did I not remember like this little detail? To be fair, it was a little off to the side, like it's a little more cornerish than center of the screen, but there's like not much attention drawn to it, but it's still like fucking huge. It's still like big on the archway, and you don't even notice it until you see the insignia later on, and then you rewatch that scene. It's like, again, it's like showing you like how important, like if you pick up on that, it's showing you, even if you do pick up on it, it shows you how important the insignia is in the world. Like, you know, the meaning of the insignia being bigger than just like some random, you know, brooch she wants back or something. It's again, like we keep mentioning, it's smart directing. It's not necessarily like the most amazing, clever, creative directing in mankind. It's just really fucking smart directing.
Yeah, like it's you really nailed it on the head there with like just the kind of like the difference between, you know, knowing with the telling of information. I forget how you worded it, but like it was just God, I don't know if there's anything else to add really. Like we just it's a great show.
I'm sorry, I say too much.
Yeah, no, it's you clearly have a passion for the show, maybe just a mild one. So
it's been a long while since I've watched a show that like I actually can't wait for it to release each week. Like,
yeah,
I'll be a Fanime this weekend, but I'm still gonna like the day it comes out be like, nah, I'm gonna free this time slot up so I can watch ReZero on like my fucking phone or something. Like, I'm not gonna be able to wait till the end of Fanime. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, it's a great show. I'm surprised, like, it has been like received pretty well though. I'd imagine like it's I don't really take the Mal rankings as a legitimate slot, but it has gone in the top 100, so at least Mal likes it. So
yeah. I mean,
it seems
I
to be,
keep in this podcast probably, and then the video that I hope went up on time yesterday. I keep giving the impression that like ReZero's like not talked about at all, but I mean, obviously it's very talked about. Like it's probably the second most talked about show. It's just that Kabaneri's above it, and I just have this desire to see it go above Kabaneri, because I feel like the only reason Kabaneri has the edge over it, other than, you know, simply personal opinions, I feel like the main reason it has an edge over it at all is because Kabaneri has more, despite the Attack on Titan comparisons, it has more originality going for it. Like, I feel like a lot of people pass off ReZero because they're like, oh, dude in a fantasy world who's like kind of otaku and knows meta shit. We've seen this before. So I feel like that's a part of the reason why, like, it's just simply on a literal level and like not as popular as Kabaneri. But I would just love to see its popularity shoot above Kabaneri. And apparently Kabaneri is only going to be 12 episodes. I don't know if it's going to be split core, but if it really is only 12 episodes, the second half of ReZero, if it keeps up, might be able to like finally shoot ahead because it won't be airing at the same time as Kabaneri. But I just want to see it ahead, man. Like, Kabaneri's not a bad show. It's just like it's so easy to get things out of ReZero and like look at it and like notice all these like neat things about it. Whereas Kabaneri, it's just like, yeah, it's high octane, it's at 11 all the time, totally keeps my attention all the time. Kabaneri's entertaining, but ReZero is just smarter. I guess is the blunt way to put it. It's like, fun, I don't know. It's kind of like what I mentioned before. Like, Kabaneri hasn't been doing a good job of selling me on the characters. Like, I still don't have an idea of what Ikoma's character is even supposed to be at this point. Like, I don't understand. And then Mume like has the potential to be a good character, but they're being silly with how they dole out information about her to the point that like I can't tell if I should care or not. Like, you know, they're it's like they're teasing that there's more to Mume, but they're not giving enough. Like, you could actually, if we keep it on the ReZero track, you could draw a lot of comparisons between Mume and Emilia as like getting to know them as characters. Like, in the first episode, like when you very first meet the two characters, like Mume probably has the upper edge because she has like the badass factor, even though you don't really see it to the end of the episode. But Emilia has more going for her because she mentions, you know, obviously her name being Satella. And, like, you don't pick up on anything that being well, I guess you do pick up on something being out of place, but you don't really know what it is at first, because obviously Puck's like, what did you just say? But there's, like, these little interactions here and there that are hints of, like, there's more than meets the eye. But I get the impression that, like, they're deliberate hints, as in, like, just wait and see what happens. Although, part of it is knowing that there's going to be resets, so I was getting the impression from the show that there would be more information based on what they were doing on the next resets. Like, I had this idea that I was going to be, that they were just teasing out information to, like, get me interested, and then they were going to feed me more to keep me going. And that's what they did. Like, at the end of the double episode of ReZero, which is probably why they did the double episode, is it ends with Subaru calling Emilia Satella, and she has the reaction that she does. Like, and not only is she just, like, glaring daggers at him, but, like, even a crowd is amassing, and they're like, what the fuck did this guy just say? Like, did he say Satella? What the fuck? So, it tells you more about, you know, as if we draw the comparison between the two female main characters, it's like, you get more out of Emilia from the episode, because you get that there's more depth, and especially because, like, just the fact that she called herself Satella, and then at the end of the episode, because I'm counting the double episode as one, she's like, you know, glaring daggers at him for calling him that, and mentioning, how dare you call me the name of the jealous witch, and the fact that there's a crowd gathering tells you a lot about being, you know, someone named Satella isn't a very good thing. So it draws the question of why she did that previously, and the show's good at portraying it in a way that tells you you will get that answer. On Mume, on the other hand, I feel like some of those aspects are there. Like, we're getting hints of, you know, this past of Mume's and why she does the things she does, but it's also, like, vague, and, like, honestly kind of, like, I hate to use the word, but it's honestly kind of generic. Like, the flashbacks they keep showing is that she, like, sees a friend of hers or something get killed. And we've been seeing people get fucking murdered by civilians all the fucking time anyways by being accused of being Kabaneri, so it has a less impact, I suppose, than it's probably supposed to. And part of it is also just a portrayal aspect of it. Like, it feels like Kabaneri is trying to sell Mume a lot on the badass factor. Like, as is obvious by how the first episode ended. Like, it really wants you to like her because she kicks ass. And I can see why that's enough for people, but at the same time, it's similar to what was mentioned before about counting your eggs before they're hatched. I want to care about a character, and then when they do badass things, I'm more excited because I like the character, and then when they do something badass, it's cool. Like, Lelouch in Code Geass is fucking cool as shit. Like, he does all this stuff, so when he does something crazy and bombastic, you're like, oh, damn, Lelouch doing his thing, you know? Like, it's crazy. Like, part of it is also just, you know, the sheer creativity of what he comes up with, which is a whole different spiel that can be gone into. But as far as just the ReZero and Kabaneri main female character comparisons, just again, it's something hard to really nail down without taking the time to analyze it. Just doing this off the top of your head can be difficult, but it's a portrayal and character intent and the way the information is being doled out perspective. Like, it's very possible that Mume has the same level of depth that Emilia has. But the problem is the way that the information has been given on Mume is, like, not doing a good job of endearing you to, like, want to know more about her character or assuming that there's any significant depth other than maybe, like, some guy was an asshole and now she's, like, she wants to, like, get revenge, maybe? I don't know. Someone keeps killing her childhood friend, apparently, in that flashback, so fuck if I know.
Oh. Yeah.
Nothing to add.
Like, yeah, you really nailed it on the head there. Like, what can I add? Fucking, I will agree with you there. Like, there's definitely a difference with not giving, I guess, hope for the viewer that like they're not going to develop the characters enough. Because from what we've seen in Kabaneri, it's clear that like the drama is very it's there when we want it to be there. I guess that's the best way for me to describe it, anyways. Like, we need this scene to be dramatic, so we're gonna insert two characters, and they're gonna duke it out. Whereas with ReZero, it's more of a slow burn, like a scene from like last episode where Subaru is like shouting at the top of his lungs to Blue. Like, that was earned. Like, that slow burn was like coming. You could feel like with everything's building within Subaru and the lack of trust, which we all know now coming from Blue. It was kind of a moment that we saw coming, and when it did come, it was brilliant. Whereas we've seen like everyone yell at the top of their lungs in Kabaneri, I don't know, a lot of times now. So when ReZero teases something about a character, when it's something as little as the insignia or something as big as, I don't know, I guess the shadow mana within Subaru now, you know that's going to be addressed sooner rather than later, because they've done it. Like, you can trust them on that. Kabaneri, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if Ikuma is going to actually get something else to him. I feel like Ikuma is probably going to stay that kind of stagnant hero throughout, which I really don't like, because it's still kind of questionable to see what Ikuma actually is this moment. Like, he had that little debate with others on whether he's a human or not, and then now he's accepted the fact that he's Kabaneri, you know, as the star of the opening glorifies. Like, so with the problem with Kabaneri is that I don't know when they're actually like stopping with a character. I don't know if they're gonna like bring Ikuma back, and which is annoying in a way, which a lot of people would like look at that and be like, oh, they're keeping you in suspense. They want you to like be pondering, oh, is there going to be more to his character? Are they going to do a more dramatic scene here? That's what everyone would say, but like with Kabaneri, it's just kind of like I don't know, because I don't trust them to like actually he's an empty character. Is there going to be more? This is not good. So it's a nice contrast there between ReZero and Kabaneri, because Kabaneri at this point in time is nothing but just a popcorn flick. You just sit back, and it's nothing too much to think about. As you said, it's not a horrible show. It's just not proving any. It's not checking any boxes in showing that it's actually worth anything. It's not proving its worth. When you got other shows like ReZero this season, in any other season where, you know, the shows were not so good, Kabaneri would probably stand out a lot more, and we would probably be praising it more. It's just this season where we have like such great character writing within ReZero. It's just Kabaneri's been so overshadowed. It's really, the flaws within it are growing more and more apparent with each passing ReZero episode, which is a compliment towards ReZero, but it's definitely a frightening thing in regards to Kabaneri, at least.
Yeah, I mentioned before that ReZero, that I'm definitely harsher on Kabaneri than I would be because of ReZero, but at the same time, I'm not sure if I would necessarily even like it if it aired in a different season, because from what we've just been saying, I think a good summary of at least my thoughts on the comparison between the two is like, Kabaneri's entertaining, but I don't feel any investment. Whereas ReZero is both entertaining and I feel invested in what's going on. I'm invested in the characters and why they're doing the things they do. in Kabaneri, I don't have that. Like, it's just, and I feel like part of it is because the show itself is placing the bombasticness over any actual character depth. Which, who knows? Maybe it'll fucking change. Maybe we'll get an episode entirely dedicated to like fleshing out some of these characters. But for now, like, I don't know. Like, there's more I could really say on Kabaneri, but I feel like I should save it for next week when we actually cover Kabaneri's actual episodes. And
Sure.
because we're starting to run out of time and we still have one more show to go. So,
Oh Jesus.
so we're just going to cut it there. And then we'll
Yeah.
move on to the last show, which is Bungo Stray Dogs. What did you think of this episode of Bungo Stray Dogs, Lewis?
It was good. Like, they're really very good at well, I've already said this. They're re-showing the actual theme of how they're I don't know, my words are jumbled. Like, good at they're really good at like showing random characters thrown in, and they're good at like telling a story through them, having unique personality traits shown, and making them actually a memorable an actual unique character. I can't say memorable. So it's good that Bungo Stray Dogs are doing that with the doctor lady this time around, with like, you know, her entire gimmick of like she's a sadist, but she's also can take a hit. It's great. It was a beautiful episode, and that's what I have to say about like her being introducing new characters all the time, because they're doing a great job of that. In regards to Atsushi, Atsushi, and she said her name like at the start of every sentence. Kyoka? Kyo?
I think so.
Yeah. But developments with her, you know, there's obviously that's probably going to lead in with the. I feel like it's going to be the final overarching plot, which I kind of briefly talked about last week, because now that Dazai is captured by the Port Mafia, and this Kyoka was directly involved in it, it's also interesting that Dazai got captured by what seems to be her power, I guess. Despite the fact that Dazai apparently can disable all powers with a click of fingers. It's going to be interesting to see how they kind of bring that into play, and how he actually got captured in that regards. Other than that, next week ought to be an interesting episode, because from the next episode preview, shit seems to be going down. But overall, this episode it basically, I guess, is confirming the fact that Atsushi has a good grasp on his power, like the tiger thing, because he was able to control that, get the tiger out, and he was able just to call upon the tiger legs to like jump out of the train. I don't really. It's not like I'm on board. I'm not on board with it. It's just it's kind of peculiar, I guess, how he's suddenly able to do it with no real development towards him. Like I'm not saying like nothing's happened between like the start of the episode where he's not able to control it at all, and now I just feel like, did I miss something? Did I miss the fact that he was able to control something? It's I feel like I missed something in regards to how Atsushi was able to control his power, you know, with the way that he's able to just spring out his legs all of a sudden without thinking about it. Like, because in the battle between the black-haired dude with the white little highlight, I don't think there was anything there. Like, he did bring out his powers, but I don't really feel like that was the turning point where he was able to control it, because he even said this episode where he was just like, oh, if only I could use my powers, and it seemed just to bring out the power of his true will alone. I don't know if that's the sheer confirmation of that he's able to control it because it's literally just powered by will, or it's going to be addressed next episode. Either way, I'm kind of cautious to in regards to how he's suddenly able to just control his moon tiger ability.
Well, the impression I was getting was that Atsushi's been dealing with like feeling like he's basically worthless for the entire series. Like he's always thrown out by people. He's caused trouble for other people just by being around them. And the impression I got from this was that the idea of being able to protect those people in the passenger car, probably by using his powers, would make him worthwhile. So it was like a not necessarily a morale boost, but almost like an ideological change in him from being worthless to like, I can help these people, that served as enough motivation to activate his powers. Like I almost feel like he didn't like I almost feel like he always could activate his powers whenever he wanted to, except for outside of that one like first episode with the moon thing. I think that might be like the one time. But I feel like there's a possibility he was always able to actually control it. It's just that he didn't want to do it because he was like scared of it. Like he's with his idea of him like always bringing trouble to those around him and like people not wanting him, like he really doesn't want to like go all out, because he's either worried like he won't be useful or like he'll end up getting someone hurt that he shouldn't hurt, stuff like that. So those are like two slightly different angles on why I think he could control the powers. But yeah, this was a good episode. I like this more than a couple of the previous ones. There were a couple of previous episodes had their moments, definitely, for sure. It's just like as a whole, I think I like this episode more than a couple of the last ones. Partially because of the doctor lady, she's great. I love her. I love that her power is that she has to like lethally harm her patients in order to heal them. It lends a nice little bit of it influences her personality, obviously. Which helps a bit there. And then the new girl is it's kind of interesting. I glanced a little bit at the Wikipedia pages for the authors that were introduced this episode. One was the lemon dude. Apparently he just wrote a short story about how he used a lemon and imagined it was a time bomb, so they gave him the power of lemon grenades. So I guess that makes sense. As far as the girl, it's funny because her real life counterpart is like a dude, so I'm not entirely sure what's up with that. Apparently he used a pen name that maybe it just sounded feminine or something, but I glanced over his page and it didn't seem like there was anything about women being a significant portion of his life. Like I don't know, it's like a weird thing that they did, but apparently she's gonna get a lot of focus next episode too, so maybe I'll get a bit of an answer after that. Yeah, there's I won't do it because of time and because we've already done it to death, but there are definite comparisons to be drawn of a character being introduced in an episode and immediately being drawn to them as opposed to Kabaneri. It's there were a couple of people that I saw drawing comparisons between Atsushi and Kyoko. Like they're both kind of like orphaned kids that have been like thrown out by people and then picked up by two different groups and kind of molded by the people that they were picked up. So there's definite comparisons to be drawn there that I think may come to a bit of a head in the next episode and play into that. It's kind of hard to really go into the motive, the characterization of her character all that much without, taking forever. And honestly, I feel like it'd be better saved for next week anyways, because we're getting a 2-part version with her. So I feel like we can just cover her character more in depth next week. So I think I'd actually rather just like kind of cut it there. Like it was a good episode. True. There's probably a little bit more we could cover, but honestly, we should probably call it because of the time.
A lot of time on ReZero.
But yeah, was there anything else you wanted to add regardless, just to make sure you got it in?
No, that was about it. It was a fun episode.
Yeah. So that'll do it for this week. Do you want to plug yourself, Lewis?
As per usual, follow my Twitter. It's at the Awitori. I've been posting some really dank ass shit recently. That's my plug done.
Wow. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week. I will be at FanimeCon this weekend, but I'll schedule this to go up ahead of time, assuming nothing goes horribly wrong and I fall behind on schedule on the 2 videos I have to get done in like 12 hours. Fuck. Yeah. That's gonna suck ass. Anyways, that's all for this week, so see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.